Good afternoon, everybody. Today is March 3rd, 2015, and welcome to our live market analysis for the US Canada. I'm the Chief Technical Analyst here at HyperFX Academy, and I'll be walking you through some of the trade setups that occurred during the US session on the US Canada currency pair. Now, we're using our basic zigzag indicator, as I've mentioned in our previous videos, and we'll be drawing two types of trend lines simply by connecting the dots. Either a horizontal trend line or an angled trend line, depending on the position of the second dot in relation to the first dot. So let's begin by drawing some of the trade setups that occurred today. Now, you are looking at a 5-pip Renko chart, which means that each one of these boxes represents 5 pips in price movement. And once we draw the trend lines and the price action crosses these trend lines, either on the upside we get a buy signal, and if it crosses on the downside we get a sell signal. So our first entry for the day would have been this down break here. And the reason I'm trading the US Canada today is just to give you an idea that you don't necessarily have to be trading the majors. You could be trading cross pairs such as this chart, and this chart specifically moves really well and is very effective with this strategy. Again, the strategy is using 5-pip Renko boxes or bricks, and each one of these bricks represents 5 pips of movement. So here was our initial down break. This was a 10-pip move. And if you had missed this opportunity, you had another opportunity to get into this trade at this point here. So this is our second entry for the day. And you can clearly see that this Renko brick here closed below this horizontal trend line. And we got this horizontal trend line simply by connecting the last two blue dots, okay? So once the price action closes past the trend line, in this case it's on the downside, so we have a sell signal. And this was a great trade. It went for, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pips. And if we had simply waited for the first opposite candle, you would have caught a majority of this movement. So that was a nice 60 pip move at the beginning of the US Open. Again, we had our first entry at this point, but if you had missed that, then you would have had another opportunity to get in at this point. So those were the first two entries on the downside. And then we had our first upside break at this point right here. Again, you can see that if we connected these three dots, it's usually just the last two, but these lined up perfectly at this point here. And once the price action crosses that, you notice that this Renko brick closed past this trend line on the upside, so that signals a buy entry. And this is a great entry. It went for 5, 10, 15 pips as well. Okay, and then we had another downside break at this point here. And this is an important point to make as well. When you receive a signal, the entry was here, but then when you receive the opposite signal, which would have been at this point here, right there, you want to make sure you exit this position right here and get into the opposite. Okay, so we had an entry here. It went for 5 pips, but chances are you would not have taken your profit. So once you receive the opposite signal, you definitely want to exit this position here and get into the opposite signal here. Now, mind you, this occurred later on in the afternoon. This is I think after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we wouldn't be trading during this period anyways, because the market is consolidating and the movements aren't as powerful. The majority of the movements and profits are taken at the US Open, and that's when the market moves the best and most favorably, so that's when you want to be trading, and that's when we caught these big moves early on. And then later on in the afternoon it did slow down a bit, but you did manage to get a few more successful trades in as well. And you can clearly see that this may have been a losing trade, but then if you had waited for the market to come around, you'd be sweating in your chair at this point. So the best thing to do is, once you receive the opposite signal, is to exit this position and get into the opposite correct trend. So that's our market recap for today for the US Canada. I'll be joining you again tomorrow afternoon with another recap using our 5-pip Renko chart, combining it with our horizontal and angled trend lines. And thank you again for tuning in, and happy trading.